Yeah, let's talk about Bifrost and why it's different from other existing alternatives and solutions that have been proposed in the years. So Bifrost has been made for basically to work with Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, so those networks that are UTXO. But the focus, of course, is on Bitcoin for obvious reasons. It's been made for being secure. So to be secure must be also slow in the sense that we need to follow the Bitcoin speed, the Bitcoin rules, and which are more restrictive to the Cardano ones. And the main focus of the bridge is that the SPOs control the security of the bridge. So if you are bridging BTC from Bitcoin to Cardano to use it on Cardano, you're kind of already trusting the SPOs, right? Because you're on Cardano. So at that point, it makes sense to try not to add additional security assumptions on top of it, and instead let the SPOs protect also the bridge itself. The Bifrost allows independent granular peg-ins and peg-out, which is very important because some alternative solutions have this problem that if you peg in one BTC, you need to peg out exactly one BTC, which from a user perspective or anybody perspective is pretty annoying or difficult to actually use. And it's important to say that there is no slashing mechanism, there are no bonds to put by the entities that make the bridge itself, which is kind of good in the sense that it's optimistic and it doesn't need to work with punishment of this type. The first, there are two main actors in the bridge of Bifrost, and one are the SPOs and the other one are the watchtowers. And the watchtowers have the duty to post on Cardano the correct chain of blocks from Bitcoin. So they give visibility of what's happening on Bitcoin to the Cardano ecosystem. And basically there is a window of 100 Bitcoin blocks, so around 16 hours, where the best forks get chosen by accumulated proof of work. And the most important part is that these watchtowers get rewarded for doing so. So the watchtower that is able to post the final blocks gets rewards. And anybody in any moment of the process of Bifrost can become a watchtower. They just need to set up, basically run the server and have visibility on Bitcoin and post the blocks on the Cardano side. So even if you're the user and you're trying to peg in and peg out, you don't trust anybody, or for some reason the other watchtowers are colluding or something like this, you can always start yourself the process by being a watchtower in any moment and post the blocks, so start the whole flow of Bifrost. So the watchtowers are the first piece, and the other piece are indeed the SPOs. And the SPOs are registered on chain for participating on Bifrost on a smart contract, and basically they have the group of SPOs that participate have an address which is Frost based, weighted on their stake. So each SPOs has a weight in this Frost that is weighted depending on the stake at that particular epoch. And the difficult duty of the SPOs is to basically manage the locked BTC on the Bitcoin side. So when we do the peg-ins, all these BTC cannot be burned, of course, because eventually we need to unlock them, of course. We cannot even send them somewhere forever. And they need to be protected very well. So this is what the SPOs need to do. And they do a distributed key generation event at the beginning of every epoch, Cardano epoch. And at the end of each of these epochs, there is a treasury movement, is a transaction on Bitcoin that takes this locked BTC from the old SPOs of the previous epoch and send them to the new SPOs of the new epoch. So every time the stake is updated, the stake distribution is updated, new SPOs join, SPOs that want to retire. So it's a dynamic set of actors, right, as the SPOs are on Cardano. And the treasury movement transaction that moves from the old locked BTC address to the new locked BTC address includes the peg-ins. So all these UTXO gets consumed and they join the treasury. And also the peg-outs. So from the treasury, outputs dedicated to each user that is pegging out is created on the Bitcoin side. And the misbehavior for SPOs that try to basically break the system, it's punished with the exponential banning. So the more you misbehave, the longer you get banned. But if once or twice happens, it's still not that bad. It could be because of an issue, technical issue or something like this for your SPOs. So you basically get the opportunity to rejoin after one epoch, then after two epochs, etc. And the other important point is reputational damage. As we can understand which SPOs misbehaved, people delegate to those SPOs. So they are trying to break the bridge. They are trying to damage Cardano because this is how Bitcoin gets on our side. And the reputation, of course, of that SPO will be damaged a lot. And people will potentially remove their stake delegation from them, right, to them. So, yep.
What is misbehavior here?
The misbehavior is when during the distributed key generation event or the signature event of the treasury movement, that transaction on Bitcoin, when they don't collaborate, they send wrong data.
So inaction or?
No, inaction is not punished because it could be, is part of the, let's say, the consensus of the Frost. It's correct that if you don't believe you should sign that, you should not sign that, right? But if you send wrong data, wrong information that doesn't allow us to conclude the process, you need to be punished properly. And because this is not like you're not agreeing with us, is you're trying to break it. So this is where we need to punish these actors. Adam?
With stick with the SPOs for right now. You mentioned that they, when they do the treasury movement to the new validator set at the end of the epoch is when peg-ins and peg-outs happen. So the bridge takes 5 days?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
slow. I didn't really
as I say secure and therefore slow, it's because there is one transaction, at least at the moment, there are some optimization that can potentially be done, right? But right now we are keeping just the core concept and sacrificing a little bit of probably optimizations in order to have everything very well clear and stable. But yes, it's one movement every 5 days that includes the movement, the peg-ins and the peg-outs in the same transaction. So it happens once every 5 days and continuously.
Watchtowers before you move.
Yep.
You said anybody can be a watchtower and they're publishing
Yes.
they're publishing basically the Bitcoin tip to Cardano somehow. Is that via like a datum or the transaction metadata? And how are you aggregating that to where anybody could do that and actually say
Yeah, so Alex can probably answer even better very fast because it's part of his work.
Yeah, essentially they publish in Redeemers the block headers, and we've implemented the Bitcoin Oracle, Bitcoin simple verification, essentially full with proof of work and fork tree handling and chain selection. So it happens on chain, and it's visible, no ZK stuff. So it's
So is
straightforward.
it essentially a race to who can update the Redeemer
Yes.
the fastest gets the reward? Okay.
Yes, it's correct. And if you update it with a fake or weaker chain of blocks, you will lose against somebody that will post the actual one. And at the end of these 100 blocks, we will get finalized.
Yeah, that's why we need 100 blocks essentially.
You mentioned it's a Frost stake-based address?
Yes.
And it's stake-weighted.
It's stake weighted, yes.
So I'm assuming you implement that where people with bigger stake just have more keys in the Frost multisig?
Again, Alex, go.
No, we actually did a simpler approach. We essentially sort them by stake and calculate how many minimum amount of stake pools required to fulfill 51% stake.
But then once you have that stake address, they all have equal weight on the...
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Any other question or Pi? Do you have follow-up? No. Okay. So yeah. So let's see very fast how the peg-ins and peg-outs work in practice, right? So let's say Alice is locking something BTC. Where does she put it? In a taproot address, okay? Which is on Bitcoin. It allows you different script conditions to be validated to spend them. And the first condition is that the SPOs themselves can spend this UTXO. So when the treasury movement will happen, the SPOs will take also this UTXO and merge it to the treasury. Or in case of the peg-in for some reason was not taken by the SPOs, Alice can always take the BTC back after 30 days. And at that point, Alice creates also a peg-in request UTXO on the Cardano side to track these requests on Cardano. So the Cardano side has visibility that a request is in progress, right? And then there is the treasury movement of the SPOs, this transaction on the Bitcoin side that actually spends the locked BTC by Alice and adds it to the treasury. At this point, Alice can generate a proof on the Cardano side, an inclusion proof of the peg-in that happened in the treasury movement, right? And in this way, she's able to independently and autonomously mint the bridge BTC on the Cardano side with just a simple proof. It's a Merkle tree, so you just need to prove it that is inside. And similar thing is the peg out. Is the opposite direction, a little bit simpler actually, because Bob, for example, creates a peg out request on the Cardano side. He locks his BTC on Cardano, and and SPOs are able to see it because they are they're watching closely the smart contract for the peg outs. And at one point, the treasury movement happens, and the treasury movement creates an output on the Bitcoin side that goes directly to Bob with the correct amount of BTC. And now at this point, Bob can basically burn the UTXO and claim the mean UTXO ADA, because unlikely there is, and proving an inclusion again, right? And in case the treasury movement had a problem or there was something particular that didn't allow this peg out, Bob is able to prove a non-inclusion. And in this way, he gets back the BTC. I can try again in the next epoch or do something else with those BTC. Okay. Yeah, some points regarding the security of Bifrost is that anybody can be a watchtower. So this is super important because it's not an actor that is chosen at the beginning, but along the whole process, you can become the watchtower yourself. And you can become it even if the other watchtower are not helping you, are against you, right? And SPOs are actually protecting the BTC, and the SPOs are incentivized in a sense to do that correctly because their business model is to have Cardano that succeeds, right? So they earn ADA, so ADA value must go up, and amount of ADA to the SPOs must be higher and higher. And the idea of bringing BTC on the Cardano side is to generate more activity, so that needs more transaction, and so appreciating the value of ADA for the SPOs as well. The peg-ins and peg-outs are autonomous, and that they have these time-based escape hatches in case of issues. So they are not locked forever in case of problems. And the Cardano stake, you need at least 67% of the Cardano stake to do the treasury movement transaction, to sign it properly. And if at the first attempt this fails, after a while a second taproot address, a taproot script unlocks and is 51%. And if even after the second one doesn't work, the consensus is not reached, the signature is not made, the locked BTC goes under the control of a federation. But this can happen only after the first two completely failed, and is an emergency situation just as a fail-safe, I say. And this federation is currently, as we thought, is made of D-reps and major entities that basically is a multi-sig where they can basically recover those BTC and, in case, manage properly those assets.
67% of participating SPO stake? Or
No, general Cardano stake,
does that
total.
Present like an operational risk given how many like large exchanges and stuff might not want to piggyback this bridge on their infrastructure?
Well, we did some calculations in basically in the worst case scenario where all the ADA is around. So now it's not like this, but let's say everything is around. And every SPO has a 20 million stake. you have around 2,000 SPOs, and in the best case scenario, they are around 350, 300. Okay, so all these numbers are still manageable. So the upper limit and the lower limit, the bridge can keep it.
Yeah, I had a related question. Like, how do you plan to get more than 67% of stake participating? Because
That's a very good question.
in Mithril right now, there's like 25%
Yes.
or so, and they take years to get that participation.
So this is a super fair question. The problem is not having SPOs to participate enough. Bifrost is a protocol, as you guys can see, whose security depends on the participation of more and more SPOs. The more SPOs participate, the more secure it is, right? So one of our current jobs is to basically plan a gradual deployment that starts from zero and slowly, when we get more and more SPOs joining, goes to this level of security. And there is also a work about incentivization of the SPOs, particularly for the first period, because we need to basically convince them that it's a good idea to do it. And then after an initial period where we actually get the numbers right, we expect that the only amount of money we need to give to the SPOs is to refund their transactions. When the work they do on chain needs to be, of course, repaid. So this is part of an ongoing cost for this. But yeah, the main problem is, of course, making SPOs join, and it's a very practical problem because Mithril already tries and does it, but Mithril doesn't give money to the SPOs as of now, right? Ideally, this strong narrative plus incentives should allow us to bring more and more SPOs to the game.
Are SPO expected to run Bitcoin node as well, or are they just
No.
signing something and someone else?
Yes,
takes
the
it?
watchtowers have to run the node on Bitcoin to know what's happening and post it on Cardano. And the reason why the watchtower exists is because we don't want the SPOs to run also the Bitcoin node. The SPOs should not be impacted as much as possible, so not ask them to have additional requirements for another piece of thing. Also because this thing can work also for Dogecoin, Litecoin, so you will have watchtowers for Bitcoin, we will have watchtowers for Dogecoin, you will have watchtower for Litecoin, and you don't want the SPOs to run all this in one. But the watchtower needs to run both the Bitcoin and the Cardano node, because it needs to post on Cardano what it sees on Bitcoin. So.
Who's responsible for coordinating the movement on the Bitcoin side?
The SPOs themselves. So when
Part of the software that they're running will just...
yes, there is a whole. There are some different rounds between them where they. You want to answer, Alex, or?
Yeah, I can clarify. Essentially, we do random leader selection who is responsible to submit the transactions.
Yeah.
One thing.
Joe?
Do the peg-in and peg-out obey the same rule? Is there always some epoch change that having both the peg-in and peg-out happens?
Yes. At the epoch change, when the treasury movement happens, is the same moment where the peg-ins are included in the treasury and the peg-outs are distributed.
Okay. And have you thought about that submitting transaction on either chain very close to epoch boundary
Yes.
could be a problem?
There is a buffer of security at the end of the epoch where nobody can do anything, because of course there is a time to actually execute the transaction and settle it and finalize it on the other side. So yes, the problem, and this is why we cannot make it super fast, right, is because we need to have some buffer every time where the transactions are properly confirmed, there is no rollback, and everything can work smoothly. And this is the choice. Our choice in this case is to prioritize the security over the speed. And this is actually brings me to the last piece. Bifrost is made for bringing a big amount of liquidity all at once on the Cardano side, to have that liquidity there once or a few times, let's say, but not for intraday operations. You don't want to, have DEX or something like this, trading stuff on Bifrost. What you do is, this is the foundation. Once you bring BTC on the Cardano side, you have BTC on Bitcoin and BTC on Cardano. And now you can use other services. Fluid Swaps is an example from Fluid Tokens that is Catalyst funded, allows cross-chain atomic swaps, right? And now it allows it between BTC and ADA and ETH. But once you have BTC on the Cardano side, you can do the cross-chain like this between the two chains only for BTC, right? Or use some more fancy stuff, which is still not much in our scope, but maybe somebody there could have some ideas, and is basically using state channels also for moving value back and forth between Lightning Network and Hydra, right? So this is, there was a question there? No?
No, I was actually just want to say, can you find a different time in the epoch than in the beginning, maybe the middle of the epoch to do things?
Yes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? It's just like we are moving.
The epoch is a calm schedule, which is really good.
Yeah.
Slow and steady is nice.
There are diagrams. If you guys go to the documentation, you can see also some timeline of the actions, and you can see that some actions must be done, for example, in the middle of the epoch for security, and that at the end of the epoch there is a buffer where nothing must happen until the new epoch there. So, yep. So this is the concept. Sure.
What is the SPO incentive model? So, like, if you've got to convince 67% of SPO stake to get on this, how are you going to sell them on doing it?
Yes, we knock at the door and ask politely. No. It's actually a very serious question, and so what we are doing now is finalizing also the good economic model for the whole thing, because this thing has cost, right? We need to be sure that basically is being covered fully and includes incentivization for SPOs, the rewards for the watchtowers, and of course understanding how much fees the user should pay when he moves the liquidity, right? So yeah, the SPOs, there are a bunch of things. One of the things we are doing now is basically collecting multiple SPOs for getting the feedbacks from them. And we basically are collecting SPOs that are completely different between each other. So some that are single SPOs, multiple pools, some that they have an exchange behind, so they have compliancy rules. So we need to understand everything we can do and not do for them, both in the program and in the incentives model, because we don't want that an exchange will not accept this just because they cannot accept money from a certain form of incentivization. So yes, we are all working on this. If you guys have ideas, throw it on the table, because as you see, the success of Bifrost can be interesting for Cardano, I say, because it's, as of now, I guess, the most concrete way to have BTC there, right, without any centralized oracle or something. And but the whole depends on the SPOs, right? So we need to have a whole campaign convincing them to be on board and try it.
What are you more worried about or keen to see, like faster finality or lower fees on the blocks you replicate from Bitcoin onto Cardano? Like what is more helping your project here?
So you mean why people should move from Bitcoin and do stuff on Cardano with the BTC?
Shall I prioritize pairs or layers?
This is a tricky question. The answer is both.
Because slow and steady sounds like this is your market fit, right? So it's a slow but valuable bridge. But then you still need to replicate all the Bitcoin headers onto Cardano.
Yes.
So we have constant traffic.
The speed here doesn't depend on Cardano, right? So even if we have an improvement on the fast finalities, etc., it doesn't change anything because we are waiting for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the dinosaur here, and we are waiting for it, right? So yeah, I would go for the one.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean,
It's possible now.
it is possible now. Yeah. We count to have an actual usable product core with the core components in a few weeks. So it's as you see, guys, we don't need any external new, fork feature or something like this, but it needs to be done properly. And the difficult part again is involving the SPOs. This is the most crucial and because it's not technical. It's about being able to onboard them. George?
In terms of, so the incentive model for SPOs obviously has to take into account the kind of operating costs of running this thing.
Yeah.
Is there also a kind of a risk component in there? Because I think I wasn't there for the entire presentation, and I'm a little bit out of it today, so I might have missed it. Is there a risk of slashing? In particular, is there this risk of like, oh, I did everything honestly, but I got unlucky because, I don't know, some other longer chain or something got posted and I got slashed for it, right? Like, you
Yeah.
kind of have to take that into account in the incentive model.
Yeah, absolutely, but there is no slashing.
Of, like, we're putting funds at risk.
Yes, absolutely, but there is no slashing. There is no bond to put. No. The SPOs that misbehave during the key generation event or during the signature process are banned in an exponential way. So at the beginning is only one epoch, and then it becomes two if you keep misbehaving. So if you have a problem with your SPO, and it's not your fault, you're not malevolous, you're just unlucky, okay, you will just lose one epoch, and then after that you join again regularly without problems.
And you won't be unlucky like 10 times.
No, if you're unlucky 10 times, it means you're doing something wrong, right? And you deserve to be out. So it's, I think it's easy enough on an SPO that has issues, but at the same time protective enough for not having somebody griefing the bridge.
For the peg, sorry, Ron.
Yeah, so is there, because your disincentive is to actually penalize SPOs, are you actually like in danger of death spiraling by falling below your threshold through penalties, and then eventually like you can't get up to where?
Yeah, so I agree that, so the ideal scenario that Adam is presenting is what happens if multiple SPOs with huge stakes start to misbehave, trying to steal the stuff of Cardano. Well, for sure they don't deserve the stake at that point. They are bad people. And the protocol itself could go under a certain percentage, right? At the beginning, it could be under the 67%. And then it could be under the 51%, right? In that case, the federation enters as an emergency mode, particularly for these reasons. And this basically, ideally, we don't see it happening ever. But in case, worst case scenario, we have this federation that saves the locked BTC and can reset the bridge also. It can restart it with proper setup again.
If we're speaking about adoption, we decided here that we can as well see that it starts with federation, and there's a bunch of BTC moving into Cardano. So we show that it's actually a very well trusted bridge, so SPOs do. Another thing that we can do for SPOs, and it's still crazy ideas we just brainstorming, and we can, for example, let's say, let's withdraw something from the treasury and make a one-time payment to SPOs so they can store this install and run it. And then after that, since there will be BTC inflow of funds into Cardano, they can be applied and they will incentivized to actually run it.
Well, I think that's one of the operational risks that I see here with the current like business plan is if we're talking about large-scale liquidity movements and not frequent small trades, are you going to generate enough incentives? Are you going to have like a 5-epoch gap where we have 500 Bitcoin on Cardano, everybody's happy, everybody's trading, but there's no movement, so therefore no incentives are generated, but we still expect those SPOs to keep operating every epoch. So there's, and then you might see again apathy and decay where, well, I'm not making any money on this, I'm not going to keep running it all the time.
Yeah, ideally what we want to do is to have the models so correctly modeled, just to know how much at the end of the year we are going to spend, excluding the fees of the bridge, right? Because at the end we could also say, okay, Cardano, we are going to be losing a little bit of money every year, but we have the bridge always operational and we never have to even think about the fees. We say, okay, let's say $50,000 a year are spent for the bridge. And it could be a cost that Cardano may accept in exchange of having BTC forever on top, right? So this is a discussion that we have to make, and it would also remove the problem of break even with the fees, right? And yeah, I think it's important, but it can make sense. It is part of the infrastructure. It could say, okay, this is a cost we are willing to accept as a community.
If I may, one of the cool things is that the amount of transactions and fees is actually predictable. We can know like the cost for the next 5 years. Essentially, we could ask probably even a treasury withdrawal to cover this 5 years and just not think about it.
Yeah. Particularly on Cardano, everything is predictable, right? So if we know the model, we can know all the costs already.
Exactly. It's not huge money. It's just
People are not predictable.
No, people are not predictable, but the peg-ins and peg-outs are the ones that could change, right? The number of peg-ins and peg-outs, and people pay a fee there, and it doesn't change anything on the work of the bridge itself. What is constant is what the SPOs have to do, what the watchtower have to do, and what we have to do also on the Bitcoin side. So that's a constant of the bridge. So we can definitely model it and know how much at the end of the year we are going to spend. All right. Any other question? Otherwise, we just Joe, very fast.
The
Yeah.
The pegging. Is there any way we can just let the pegging come in a little bit delayed, but more frequently instead of waiting? What are the security concerns?
We are discussing a few of ideas, including the possibility to have a treasury movement twice in the epoch instead of once, so 3 days instead of 5. Yeah, yeah. It's now, as I say, we are trying to make the concept super solid, and then there is the polishing part and the optimization part and the hardening part where that needs to be done if possible. So.
Because I understand it on the Cardano side, you have the stake every 5 days, the weight of the stake pool operators changes, so you need to reflect that into the
Yes.
protocol. But on the way, once that you've given enough time to prevent rollbacks on the Bitcoin network, and you say, like, I'll give you 2 hours, why not after 12?
You could, but as of now, you need to prove an inclusion of the Penguin request into the treasury. So if you change this behavior in something else, yes. Otherwise, you still need to wait that the UTXO is merged as an input to the treasury. And this is why the treasury movement is needed.
And the treasury